On this episode of Arts Weekly, I'm speaking with Chris Colcord and Dave Frey from the Arena Dinner Theater.
My first job was to write the play, and I just shut everything else off, and I wrote the play. I wrote the main character for myself, and that was sort of out of necessity. I had nothing, again, to start with the play, and then I do this frequently when I'm writing. I'll just start basically spouting out lines of dialogue, as an actor, because I started out as an actor, and then I started writing.
And Will Murphy from WBNI, WBOI.
I think public radio is really critically important right now, primarily because of the mission behind it. For example, with WBNI and BOI, with Northeast Indiana Public Radio, the mission is to enrich the community through the content we provide, to enrich the human experience. We're not profit-driven.
This is Arts Weekly.
Arts Weekly is a production of the College of Visual and Performing Arts at IPFW, offering degrees in fine arts, music, theater, and visual communication and design. IPFW, the energy of arts.
Hello, this is Chuck O'Connor, and you're watching Arts Weekly. Joining me is Dave Frey and Christopher Colcord from the Arena Dinner Theater. They're here to talk about True Life Christmas Disasters, opening on November 25th at the Arena Dinner Theater. Thank you both for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
You know, this is an interesting title, Christmas Disasters. Dave, you have me intrigued here. Why did you decide to pick this play for the Arena Dinner Theater's Christmas season?
Well, picking a Christmas show is always a challenge. There are many, many Christmas shows out there, and it's just hard to find a good script. And we read about 10 scripts to choose our Christmas show for the season. I contacted Chris about directing one we were interested in, and he just didn't think he could do a lot with it. So I asked him, which is something we discussed for several years, I said, well, how about you writing a show for us? And it's a trend amongst a lot of dinner theaters and some smaller theaters throughout the country. It's just more cost effective to do your own show. And many theaters do musicals and that type of things, and find some shows that are some songs that aren't copywritten, and then they throw their own show together. And I just thought, I've known Chris for a long time. I respect his talent a great deal. I knew he could do a good job with it, so I asked him if he'd be interested in writing a show, and he said, yeah, I would. And so here we are.
Well, it's always good to see a little bit of a spin on the Christmas play. And Chris, what made you interested in doing this project and writing this play?
Well, I've written some Christmas things before. I wrote a short piece called A Bachelor's Christmas for a friend of mine, which he performed for when he was a student at IPFW for the National Theater Competition. And I always had it in my mind I wanted to do some sort of a Christmas story. And then Dave contacted me about directing It's a Wonderful Life, and I had no interest in that. So he said, well, write a show. And I thought, you know what, that sounds like something I'd like to do. So I took about 90 seconds, and then I said, yeah, let's do it. And then I just proceeded on to try to come up with an idea for the story.
How hard was it to come up with an idea? There's so many Christmas plays out there. Yeah. What made you choose this theme?
Well, it took me forever. To be honest, and full disclosure, Dave needed a synopsis for the play, I think in June, or for the season. They wanted to tell people what shows they were doing, and I had nothing. I couldn't come up with a thing. And so finally, I just sort of chained myself to a chair and came up with at least a workable synopsis. And if you read the website, you'll note that it's extremely vague because, again, I didn't have an idea. But I knew that I should start eliminating some options, and I was going to focus on a family. And then I started thinking about a really super contentious family that doesn't get along too well. And what would happen?
Never heard of such a thing on Christmas time.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I mean, I think everybody has that. I mean, I hope this play resonates. I'm very happy with it. But the central idea about smacking 5 people in a home that don't specifically like each other and asking them to spend a couple of days together, that it's not exactly the sweet gingerbread thing that we've been led to expect. So I wanted to focus kind of on what I called a real life or true life Christmas, which I think a lot of people have. No matter how well adjusted your family is, there's going to be
It's stressful.
Yeah, there's going to be some struggles and some petty skirmishes that happen no matter how old you are.
Yes.
And so,
But for our audience, can you tell them whether this is a comedy, is it a tragedy, a drama?
Yeah, well,
what's the genre?
you know, the good thing about doing this play with Dave is I had parameters, and that's such a great thing. And basically, it's like something light, something that's funny, and for my own parameter, something that's about an hour and a half long. Because when I go see a play, I want something good, and I want something quick, and I want something that's going to resonate. And so it is a comedy, it is funny, but I have characters that are, you know, in their late 40s. The three brothers in the play are in their late 40s, and it's simply inconceivable that you could write about somebody at that stage in their life without having some relatively heavy baggage attended to it. So there is a dramatic undertow to the story. I mean, it doesn't overwhelm it. I'm not trying to be Eugene O'Neill or anything, but there is some, you know, there is some obvious friction and some, I think, real life family dramatics that are inherent in the story. So.
Well, don't you think that it's almost become a modern tradition to talk about the dysfunctional nature of Christmas? I mean, when you have Home Alone 2, and we were just talking before the show about a very funny movie called The Ref,
which I love,
which we all three of us love. Dave, you know, it seems like we almost need this relief to laugh at Christmas time.
Yes, and that's the finished product. You know, I couldn't be happier with the finished product, and that's what I love about it. Is I think Chris does a great job about a family who loves each other, as we all do with our families. But at the same time, you can really see the frustrations and the struggles in getting them all together at Christmas time. The other thing I really like about the show is. It really focuses on a family. It's not the traditional, you know, they've all gone off and gotten married and had 2.5 children in the white picket fence. You know, I don't think any of the characters are married, are they?
No. Who are some of the characters in the play?
Well, it's sort of, there's three contentious brothers. They're in their late 40s, and they have a younger sister who's about 10 years younger. So there's that natural kind of break between, when you have a younger sister, you tend to be very protective of her. And so they're extremely protective of their younger sister. And the scenario in the play is they're all coming back home for the first time in 5 or 6 years because they're worried about their mother. There's something going on with the marriage between the mother and the father that we get into in the play. So basically they've all come home to see how their mother is doing, but also to, you know, reestablish some relationships. And so there's three brothers that are extremely contentious, and a younger sister that they're very protective over. And the younger sister is bringing her new boyfriend for the first time to meet the family, who respond to him appropriately, which, like every older brother, I think.
And will they chase him away?
Yeah, they totally pick on him. So it's kind of fun. But I wanted to do that. I wanted to have a character that was being introduced to the family at approximately the same time that the playgoers are. You know, you want to kind of, I think it's important sometimes when you see a play that you want to have sort of an emissary that you can represent the typical audience member on stage. So you can tend to be relating. I mean, that's the goal. Anyway.
Well, so that the audience is kind of in on the joke with the rest of the family.
Yeah, you see his response to it, which is sort of wide-eyed and astonished at some of the imbecilities of the fights they have. But yeah, you do get to see it through his eyes a little bit.
Now you're not only you wrote the play, but you're also directing it and you're performing in it, Chris.
Yeah, what an egomaniac.
Either that or you're insane. No, but really, how hard is that to do? How do you get any perspective, and what are some of the challenges of doing that?
You gotta compartmentalize it. My first job was to write the play, and I just shut everything else off, and I wrote the play. I wrote the main character for myself, and that was sort of out of necessity. I had nothing, again, to start with the play, and then I do this frequently when I'm writing. I'll just start basically spouting out lines of dialogue, you know, as an actor, because I started out as an actor, and then I started writing.
When you're writing at the keyboard?
Yeah, which I don't do, by the way. I always do longhand on a legal pad, like
interesting.
The old guy that I am. But yeah, I just started speaking dialogue that I thought, how would I like to start the show? I had to imagine, okay, lights go out, you know, music, lights come up, what happens? And I just started talking. And I started talking about something about Christmas. Actually, I started complaining about It's a Wonderful Life and A Christmas Carol and how I hate them. And it just started going on. I started getting more momentum. So I knew that I was going to be playing that role pretty much because I wrote it purely from my own inflections and my own viewpoints. And so it's not necessarily an ego thing that made me do that. It was sort of a necessity thing because and it kicked the play off for me. Yeah. And after that, everything else started to fall into line. Your question about directing, boy, it's so much different when you write things out and then you have other people say words that you've only heard in your head. And no matter how many times I do it, it just always sounds so strange. And a lot of times the actors speak it exactly like you like it. And then a lot of times they speak it much better than you intended. And then sometimes they miss.
Right.
So you really have to kind of change it.
Wow, it's a very, very involved process.
It is. It's kind of fun, and I have to admit, I do like being in charge. I do like running this show. You know, I do like to see it because I want it. Because it's one of my favorite quotes about playwriting is by David Ives, who wrote All in the Timing, and he said, "I just write plays that I'd like to see performed," and that's kind of how I am. I just want to write something that I'd like to see. So it's fun to be able to call the shots.
Well, good. You know, it sounds like it's going to be really, really, really fun. And
I hope so.
Like I said, maybe a big relief by the time it opens, or while we're experiencing Christmas for ourselves. But you know, at the Arena Dinner Theater, Dave has quite a good season coming up. And let's talk a little bit about some of the other plays going on there. You have coming up. You have a Murder Among Friends that opens on January 20th, I believe.
Yes, and all the shows we're doing this season, we chose 7 shows that have never been done in Arena before. 5 of the 7 have never been done in Fort Wayne. So we really try to search far and deep to find some new material for our audience. So we're, which is one of the reasons we commissioned Chris to write this show. We're doing Murder Among Friends, January 20th through the February 4th. Then followed by that, we're doing The 39 Steps, which just ran on Broadway and off Broadway for a very, very lengthy time. They had a great run out there.
You know, that's quite an interesting play. Four people, I believe, in it.
Four actors playing 150 different characters.
Wow.
That
we
takes
actually some acting.
When we actually
experience.
took a step forward too, when we got the rights to that show, which was tough. It's brand new, so we're the first ones in Fort Wayne to get it.
Press.
And we actually precast that show. We allowed the director to go find his actors ahead of time because they've got script in hand and are working on it as we speak.
I've seen this one in London, and it's a must-see. I advise everybody, as I do all the plays, but this one in particular is very, very interesting.
Very popular. So that's one we're really, really excited about.
What about Sex Please Were 60?
Sex Please Were 60s by a playwright named Michael Parker and his wife Susan Parker. And we've been contacted by him several times. He's a national playwright. All his plays are published with Samuel French. And he's got the best titles in theater, I say.
I would say
his titles are excellent. And he's very involved. He actually contacted us to offer us to talk to the local media and to be involved as much as we'd like him to be from a playwright standpoint.
And then your last one is The Marriage Go Round.
Yes, The Marriage Go Round. It's going to run June 8th through the 23rd. And that's just an interesting perspective. It's a show from the 50s, but it still holds true, where a man and a woman stand at a podium and they are speaking to presumably an audience of men and women, respectively, and then they talk about the struggles of marriage and then go and act out scenes in between. And very popular show back in the 50s, had a good Broadway run and hasn't been done in town that we can find.
And you know, always a lot of fun at the Arena Dinner Theater. You can go there, get there early, have some dinner or a drink. You guys have a full bar. Quite a unique experience here in Fort Wayne. Folks, this is all the time we have for this show, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the Christmas Disaster at Arena Dinner Theater. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Chuck.
For more information about the Arena Dinner Theater and how you can buy tickets to True Life Christmas Disasters, visit arenadinnertheater.org or call them at 424-5622. Arts Weekly will return in a moment.